The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars, planets, and strange alien races. Yet for centuries, humanity had lived under the shadow of a powerful group, known only as the Council. To most people, the Council was seen as guardians of peace, a group of wise alien leaders who promised safety and order. They claimed they kept the galaxy balanced, and they claimed they kept humanity safe from danger. But the truth was far darker. The Council did not see humans as equals. They saw them as tools, as a young and dangerous species that must never be allowed to rise too high. And so, through rules, control, and hidden lies, they kept humanity small. They gave humans just enough freedom to survive, but never enough power to grow. Most people never questioned it. Most people never even imagined that anything was wrong, until one day a hidden truth slipped through the cracks. On the colony world of Theron Prime, a lone technician named Elias sat alone in a dark room staring at a broken data console. He had been repairing damaged comms relays when he stumbled upon something he was never meant to see. A transmission coded with the Council's private seal. At first he thought it was an error, perhaps a ghost signal left behind in the system. But as the console sparked back to life, words appeared. Alien voices translated into human text. Elias leaned closer, reading line after line, and with every word his heart pounded harder. The Council was speaking in secret. And they were not speaking of peace. The message was clear. Humanity must remain limited. Their numbers must be watched. Their technology must be slowed. If they rise too quickly, they will surpass us all. Elias froze. His hands trembled above the console. The words cut through him like a knife. The Council had always claimed they were protecting humanity from outside threats. But this was different. This was fear. The aliens were afraid of humans, afraid of what they could become. Elias quickly copied the data onto a small drive, slipping it into his jacket. He knew that if the Council discovered this, he would vanish without a trace. People who asked too many questions already did. Outside, the city lights of Theron Prime glowed like stars, but Elias could not see their beauty anymore. All he could see was the truth he now carried. Humanity was not being protected. Humanity was being chained. The next day, whispers began to spread. A recording leaked into underground networks, reaching the ears of smugglers, traitors, and rebels. At first, many refused to believe it. The Council would never lie. But then came more fragments, more pieces of hidden transmissions. Together, they painted a picture too clear to deny. The Council had kept humanity weak on purpose. Across the colonies, workers stopped their labor to listen. Soldiers gathered in secret to watch. Families huddled in their homes, staring at shaky holoscreens as the truth spread like fire. Some wept in anger, others clenched their fists. And for the first time in generations, humanity began to see the Council not as protectors, but as prison guards. Still, fear lingered. The Council's power was immense. Their fleets stretched across the stars. Their laws were enforced by alien armies that humans could never match. Speaking out too loudly meant death. Entire colonies had disappeared before for smaller crimes, yet the spark had been lit. One question repeated again and again. If the Council is lying to us, what else are they hiding? Back on Theron Prime, Elias sat in the shadows of a crowded marketplace. Around him, the noise of trade and chatter filled the air, but he heard none of it. He only thought of the data in his pocket, the words that had changed everything. He saw a group of soldiers pass by, armored aliens with weapons at their sides. Once he might have lowered his head in respect. Now he only felt rage. They were not guardians. They were jailers, and somewhere deep inside, Elias felt something awaken. A fire that had been waiting for centuries. Humanity had always been told it was weak, too fragile to stand on its own. But now he knew the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was feared. That night, Elias uploaded the full recording to dozens of hidden relays. He knew the Council would track him. He knew his time was short, but the message had to spread. People had to see. Humanity must remain limited. Those were the Council's words. And now those words belonged to everyone. In the days that followed, riots broke out on small colonies. Citizens refused Council orders. Ships refused to pay alien taxes. The first sparks of resistance began to appear. The Council answered with denial, broadcasting calming voices across the stars. They called the transmissions fake. They said humans were imagining shadows. They said humanity should trust them as they always had, but it was too late. The hidden truth was out. And once a truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Far across the galaxy on alien homeworlds filled with towering spires and glittering skylines, council leaders gathered in fear. For the first time, their calm voices broke. Their perfect plans began to crack. Humanity knows, one alien hissed. They will rise, another whispered. They must be stopped, the council declared. But even as they spoke, the fire had already spread too far. On Theron Prime, Elias stood on a balcony, staring at the night sky filled with stars. Somewhere out there, he knew, the council was plotting humanity's downfall. But for the first time in history, humanity was awake. And when a sleeping giant wakes, nothing can ever put it back to sleep. The hidden truth was now out in the open. And soon the galaxy would burn with the fury of mankind. The council thought their lies would hold. They thought humanity would be too afraid, too small, too divided to resist. But the truth spreads faster than any fire. Once a single spark is lit, the flames cannot be stopped. Across the human colonies, the truth of the council's deception moved like a storm. At first, it traveled through whispers, quiet voices in dark alleys, cautious talks between friends, stolen moments between workers and factories. But soon those whispers became louder. They became shouts, and those shouts began to echo across entire worlds. On Lorien Station, a busy trade hub orbiting a red sun, hundreds of people gathered in the docking bays. They were not there to load cargo or sell goods. They were there to listen. Someone had smuggled in a recording of the council's secret words, and now it played on an old holoprojector for everyone to see. The crowd was silent at first. The alien voices echoed through the station. Humanity must remain limited. Their numbers must be watched. Their technology must be slowed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A woman dropped the tools she was holding. A soldier clenched his fists. A child asked his father, "Why are they afraid of us?" The silence ended in an instant. Anger roared through the hall like thunder. People shouted. Some cursed the council. Others wept in rage. And in that moment, they all knew. Humanity was no longer asleep. On Earth itself, the birthplace of humanity, protests filled the streets. Massive cities that had once obeyed council laws without question now shook with voices demanding freedom. "No more lies," they cried. "No more chains." Leaders tried to calm them. Council representatives appeared on the screens repeating the same words over and over. "These are false reports. Humanity is imagining threats. The council has always protected you." But no one believed them anymore. Every denial only added more fuel to the fire. Even in the military, where loyalty to the council was strong, doubts began to grow. On the battleship Solar Edge, Captain Mara Vey sat in her chair, staring at the recording again and again. She had fought for the council for years, leading missions to protect colonies from supposed dangers. But now she understood. Those missions had not been about protection. They had been about control. Her crew watched her in silence, waiting for her command. For a long time, she said nothing. Then finally, she spoke. "We were never soldiers of peace. We were soldiers of fear. Their fear, but no more. From this moment, this ship serves humanity, not the council." The crew erupted in cheers. The Solar Edge changed its course that day, leaving council space behind to join the growing resistance. The awakening was not without blood. The council struck back swiftly. On Ethon Colony, alien enforcers stormed the streets, dragging away anyone who dared to speak the truth. Families hid in basements, fires burned in the night, ships vanished without warning. But instead of silencing humanity, these attacks only made them stronger. For every person taken, 10 more stood up. For every city crushed, 3 more rose in anger. The fear that once kept humanity in chains was fading. Rage was taking its place. In the shadows, leaders began to appear. They were not kings or politicians. They were ordinary men and women, farmers, teachers, engineers, and soldiers who refused to kneel any longer. They called themselves the Free Voice, and their only mission was to spread the truth to every corner of the galaxy. Hidden networks carried their words. Smugglers carried recordings between stars. Hackers broke through council firewalls, planting messages on every screen they could reach. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not a child. Humanity will rise. The council watched all of this with growing fear. In their great chambers, alien voices shouted over each other. Some demanded harsher punishment, others urged caution. But they all agreed on one thing: humanity was slipping from their grasp. "They are uniting," one alien warned. "They were never meant to unite," another hissed. "If they do, nothing will stop them," whispered a third. And for the first time in centuries, the Council's perfect mask of control began to crack. Back on Theron Prime, Elias, the man who first uncovered the truth, lived like a fugitive. The Council hunted him across cities, offering rewards for his capture. Yet wherever he went, people protected him. To many, he was no longer just a man. He was a symbol. Elias never asked to be a leader. He never wanted to be famous. But he could not hide from what he had started. The people looked to him for guidance, for hope, for a future beyond the Council's lies. And though he was afraid, he also knew this was no longer about him. It was about all of humanity. Weeks passed, and the fire of resistance burned brighter. Humans who had once doubted themselves now stood tall. Colonies that had once fought against each other now shared resources. For the first time in history, humanity began to act not as scattered worlds, but as one people. And in that unity, there was strength. On a distant moon, a group of children gathered around a campfire. They whispered stories of the Council's fear, of humanity's awakening, of ships rising into the stars to fight back. One child asked, "Will we be free?" An old man, scarred from years of work under alien overseers, placed his hand on the child's shoulder. His eyes burned with a fire that had been waiting a lifetime. "Yes," he said, "we will be free, because now humanity is awake, and the Council cannot put us back to sleep." The galaxy was changing. The balance of power was shifting. Humanity had been silent for too long. Now their voices filled the stars. And soon their fury would follow. The Council's control had lasted for centuries. They had kept humanity divided, fearful, and obedient. But now cracks had opened. The truth was out. And once truth escapes, it cannot be forced back into silence. Still, the Council believed they could stop the wave. They believed humans were too weak to resist their power. They believed fear would be enough. They were wrong. On the frontier world of Kalor, a small human colony sat beneath a copper sky. For years, the people there had lived under heavy council taxes. Their crops were taken. Their technology was limited. Their voices were ignored. They had endured it all in silence. But when the truth reached Kalor, silence turned to fire. At first, the anger showed in whispers. Workers cursed the Council as they toiled in the fields. Soldiers muttered behind closed doors. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. But soon one man dared to speak in the open. His name was Darius Holt, a former soldier. Standing on a crate in the middle of the colony's marketplace, he raised his voice for all to hear. "The Council fears us," he shouted. "They have lied to us. They have stolen from us. They have kept us weak. But no more. We are not slaves. We are human. And it's time they learn what that means." The crowd erupted in cheers. That same night, alien enforcers arrived to silence the colony. Tall, armored figures with glowing weapons marched through the streets. They demanded obedience. They ordered the humans to return to silence. But silence was gone. The people of Kalor did not kneel. They stood in the streets shoulder to shoulder. Farmers held tools. Miners carried drills. Children clung to their parents but did not run. And at the front, Darius stood firm, staring into the alien commander's eyes. "This is our world," he said, "and we will not bow." The first shot fired. The battle began. The fight was brutal. The aliens were stronger, armed with advanced weapons. But the humans fought with something greater: rage. For every man that fell, two more rose. For every family broken, another one took up arms. And then came the moment that would echo through the galaxy. A group of miners, trapped in the tunnels beneath the colony, detonated their own equipment, collapsing the ground beneath the alien forces. The enforcers fell, their machines crushed under tons of rock. The humans swarmed above them, shouting with fury. By dawn, the Council's forces had fled Kalor. The colony had won. News of Kalor's defiance spread like lightning. Across the stars, humans whispered the name with pride. Kalor, the world that fought back. For the first time, humanity had done more than resist. They had struck the Council and survived. The Council raged. Their fleets burned through nearby systems, searching for rebels. They bombarded villages, arrested families, erased entire towns. But the harder they struck, the stronger humanity's fire grew. On every colony, someone whispered the same words. If Kaelor can fight, so can we. Captain Maravay of the battleship Solar Edge heard those whispers. When she learned of Kaelor's victory, she gathered her crew. Her voice carried across the ship. You have seen their lies. You have seen their chains. But now you have also seen their fear. They are afraid of us. Afraid of what humanity can become. Kaelor lit the fire. It is our duty to spread it, her crew cheered, and the Solar Edge began raiding Council supply lines, striking like lightning before disappearing into the dark. Each victory fed the growing legend of human resistance. Meanwhile, Elias, the man who had first uncovered the Council's secret, hid in safe houses across different colonies. He had thought the truth would only anger people. He had not expected this wave of fury, this unstoppable chain of rebellion. One night, while moving through the shadows of a ruined city, a child approached him. She handed him a crude drawing, a picture of humans standing tall with alien ships burning behind them. My father says you showed us the truth, the girl whispered. He says we fight because of you. Elias felt the weight of her words. He was no soldier. He had no weapons. But he carried something far more dangerous, the spark that had lit the fury of mankind. In the Council's grand chamber, the alien leaders argued endlessly. Crush them harder, one demanded. They are too dangerous to ignore, another agreed. But a third spoke with fear in its voice. Kaelor showed us what we feared most. They are uniting. If humanity ever stands as one, no fleet in the galaxy will stop them. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the Council understood the danger. Humanity's fury was no longer a whisper. It was a spark, and sparks, when fed, become wildfires. Weeks later, another battle erupted, this time on the mining world of Vera 9. The Council sent an entire fleet to crush the humans. But when the ships arrived, they found not a colony cowering in fear, but a human defense waiting. Ships stolen from old scrapyards, weapons built from mining drills, even orbital cannons crafted from broken machinery. The humans fought with desperation, but also with belief. They believed in Kaelor. They believed in Elias. They believed in themselves. The battle was savage. Entire cities burned. But when the smoke cleared, the humans still stood. 2 victories. 2 sparks. The galaxy began to notice, and so everywhere humans whispered the same words. We are not weak. We are not afraid. We are human, and we will rise. The fury was no longer just a spark. It was a fire spreading from world to world, and soon it would consume the galaxy. The victories on Kaelor and Vera 9 shook the galaxy. For centuries, no one had dared to defy the Council. Now 2 human colonies had stood against them, and won. The Council still commanded mighty fleets, vast armies, and ancient power, but something had changed. Humanity no longer saw them as untouchable gods. They saw them as liars, and then came the discovery that would shatter everything. On the cold research world of Nerath, hidden deep under the frozen ground, a group of human scientists stumbled upon abandoned Council archives. At first they thought it was just old data, records of trade, taxes, maybe lost maps. But what they found was far greater. Inside the dusty vaults were files locked away for centuries, sealed under codes marked for Council eyes only. The scientists worked night and day cracking the alien encryption. What they uncovered left them speechless. The Council had not only lied about humanity's place in the galaxy, they had stolen humanity's past. Long ago, before the Council's rule, humans had begun reaching beyond their solar system. They had built ships, tested weapons, and even developed early forms of faster-than-light travel. Humanity had been on the edge of becoming a galactic power, but the Council had intervened. Secretly, they sabotaged human progress. They spread diseases on Earth to slow population growth. They destroyed colonies and accidents. They erased records of human inventions and claimed those ideas as their own. Every step of the way, the Council had shaped humanity's history, not to protect them, but to weaken them. The scientists stared at the files in horror. Humanity was not a fragile child that needed guidance. Humanity had been chained on purpose. When word of this discovery leaked, it spread faster than any rebellion could. People who had doubted the resistance now saw undeniable proof. Hollow screens across colonies lit up with files, recordings, and evidence of centuries of lies. On Earth, millions filled the streets in rage. On Mars, miners threw down their council tools and swore never to serve again. On the frontier, entire fleets of human freighters switched allegiance overnight, declaring loyalty to humanity and not the council. The fury was no longer just about freedom. It was about justice. In the council chambers, chaos erupted. The alien leaders argued, shouted, and accused one another. Some demanded total war. Others insisted on retreat. But one truth could not be denied: their deception was broken. "They know," hissed one alien, slamming a clawed hand against the table. "They know everything." "And now," another whispered, "they will never forgive us." On Theron Prime, Elias listened to the reports with grim determination. He had always believed the council lied, but he had never imagined the depth of their betrayal. Humanity's entire history had been stolen. Their destiny had been rewritten. Standing before a gathering of rebels, Elias raised his voice. "They thought they could chain us forever. They thought they could bury our past. But the truth has returned, and now humanity knows who it really is. We are not weak. We are not children. We are the storm they feared." The hall shook with thunderous cheers, but knowledge came with danger. The council knew the truth was more dangerous than any weapon, so they sent fleets to silence the scientists of Nerath and destroy the archives. What followed was a desperate battle. Human ships, small and poorly armed, raced to defend the planet. They fought in the icy skies above Nerath while soldiers on the ground scrambled to move the archives. The humans could not match the council's power. One by one, their ships fell in fire, but they had one goal: not to win, but to escape with the truth. In the chaos, a convoy of small transports lifted off, carrying the stolen files into the stars. Hundreds of brave defenders gave their lives to protect them. Their sacrifice ensured that the truth would survive. Across the colonies, the data was copied and shared again and again. Everyone now knew the Council's darkest secret. Humanity had been sabotaged for centuries because the Council feared what humans might become, and with that, knowledge came resolve, Captain. Marave and her battleship Solar Edge joined with other defected ships to form the first human fleet. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but united in purpose. At their first council of war, Mara spoke with steel in her voice. "They took our history. They took our future. They told us we were weak. But now we know the truth. And the truth is this: humanity was always strong. Strong enough to rise, strong enough to fight, and strong enough to win." The fleet erupted in cheers. For the first time, humanity had its own council. Not of aliens, but of humans. In hidden bases, engineers began to work furiously, reverse engineering old designs from the stolen archives. Weapons thought lost forever were rebuilt. Engines from forgotten centuries came alive once more. Humanity was awakening not only in spirit but in technology. The Council could not stop it. In the Outer Rim, a group of alien merchants watched the growing rebellion with fear. One whispered, "The humans are changing. They are not the same as before." Another replied, "No, they are becoming what they were always meant to be." The galaxy trembled as the truth spread. The deception was revealed. The fury was growing. And the Council knew the storm was coming. The galaxy was no longer the same. The Council's lies had been revealed, their control shaken. Humanity, once divided and afraid, now burned with fury.
Colonies that had never spoken to one another were now united.
Soldiers who once fought under alien banners now raised the flag of mankind. The Council had ruled through fear, but now humanity had no fear left, only wrath. The first strike came on the trade routes of Sector Halon, where the Council's supply convoys carried weapons, food, and fuel to their fleets. Dozens of human ships, old freighters turned into war vessels, waited in the dark between the stars. Their engines were silent. Their weapons were armed. At the command of Captain Marave, the human fleet launched. The Council ships were caught off guard. They expected smugglers, maybe raiders, not an organized human force. Explosions ripped across the void as human guns tore through alien hulls. For the first time in centuries, Council ships retreated from humans. The victory was small, but it sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Humanity had gone from resisting to striking back. Everywhere humans rose. On Argos colony, workers seized council factories, turning them into armories. On Venlar 3, miners armed with drills and explosives drove alien overseers from their tunnels. On Earth, massive crowds filled the skies with drones demanding independence. The council responded with fire. Fleets burned colonies, soldiers stormed cities, and propaganda filled the stars. But the harder they struck, the stronger humanity became. Each attack fueled more anger, more rebellion, more unity. The wrath of mankind could not be chained anymore. In the council's grand chamber, fear spread like a plague. The alien leaders shouted at one another, blaming and accusing. "They are animals," one hissed. "We must crush them completely." "They are no longer animals," another replied. "They are something else, something dangerous." And then came a report that chilled them all. Human engineers, using stolen archives, had begun building warships, not weak, slow vessels, but ships meant for battle. Humanity was not only fighting. Humanity was evolving. On a hidden base carved into an asteroid, Elias stood before a gathering of rebels. He was no general, no soldier, but his words carried more weight than any weapon. "They told us we were weak," he said. "But look around you. Do you see weakness here? Do you see fear? No, you see strength. You see unity. You see humanity as it was always meant to be. The council thought they could break us, but they only woke us. And now they will learn what it means to face the fury of mankind." The room thundered with cheers. The wrath of humanity was not just in battles. It was in the hearts of every man, woman, and child who refused to kneel. Entire families volunteered for the resistance. Factories worked day and night, building weapons from scraps. Colonies that once competed for resources now shared everything they had. Humanity was no longer many worlds. It was one people united by rage. The first great test came at the Battle of Draven's Gate, a strategic jump point where the Council kept a massive fleet. For decades, it had been a wall humans could never cross. Now they came to tear it down. Hundreds of human ships gathered, small, battered, but full of defiance. The Council met them with war cruisers, sleek and deadly. The battle began with fire and thunder. The humans fought with reckless fury. Every pilot knew the odds. Every soldier knew the risk. But not one ship turned away. Mara Vey's battleship, the Solar Edge, led the charge. Alien lasers cut into her hull, but she pressed forward, firing everything she had. "For humanity!" she roared as her cannons lit the void. The fighting raged for hours. Human ships fell one after another. The Council thought victory was near. But then, in the chaos, a group of human frigates broke through, targeting the alien command vessel. The Council flagship exploded in a storm of fire. The alien fleet, shocked and leaderless, faltered. And in that moment, humanity struck with all its fury. When the smoke cleared, Draven's Gate belonged to humans. The victory was more than military. It was symbolic. A place that had always been a reminder of Council power was now a reminder of human wrath. Across the galaxy, billions of humans celebrated. Songs were sung. Fires were lit. Children whispered the story of Draven's Gate like a legend. And in the Council chambers, silence reigned. For the first time, the aliens did not speak with arrogance. They spoke with fear. "They are no longer fighting for survival," one alien whispered. "No," another said. "They are fighting for vengeance." But humanity was not finished. With each victory, their strength grew. With each battle, their unity deepened. They were no longer just resisting. They were no longer just surviving. They were rising, and soon their wrath would fall upon the very heart of the Council. The galaxy trembled. World after world had seen the truth. Colony after colony had risen in fury. The Council, once untouchable and feared, was now hunted. Humanity's wrath spread like wildfire, and nothing could put it out. But the greatest battle was still to come. At the heart of Council space, deep inside a system surrounded by massive fleets, stood the citadel of Orvos, the Council's ancient stronghold. For centuries, it had been the symbol of alien power, a fortress no one dared to approach. Now humanity was coming for it. In secret bases, human fleets gathered, ships built from scraps, ships stolen from Council docks, ships newly forged with human engineering, all came together under one banner. For the first time in history, humanity had an armada of its own. On the command deck of the Solar Edge, Captain Mara Vey stared at the star map. Red markers showed the Council's fleet vast and overwhelming. Blue markers showed her own, a patchwork of ships from every colony. The odds were impossible. But Mara did not flinch. She turned to her crew, her voice strong. They thought we would kneel. They thought we would break. But look at us now. We are here. We are united. Today, we take the fight to their doorstep. Today, humanity shows the galaxy what we are. Her words lit fire in every heart. Across the fleet, humans raised their voices in one cry. For humanity, the fleet jumped into council space. The battle began at once. Alien cruisers poured fire into human ships, their weapons cutting like knives through the void. Dozens of human vessels burned in the first hour, but not one turned away. The humans fought with fury, with desperation, with belief. They rammed enemy cruisers, boarded battleships, and tore down defenses. Every loss only pushed the survivors harder. The council fleet was vast, but the humans were relentless. Elias, hidden on a small command vessel, watched the battle unfold on holoscreens. He was no soldier, but he had carried the truth across the stars. Now he carried something else, hope. He whispered to himself, this is it. The reckoning. As the fleets clashed, Mara Vey led the Solar Edge directly into the heart of the fight. Alien destroyers surrounded her, firing from all sides. The ship shook, alarms screamed, but Mara refused to retreat. Full speed ahead, she shouted. Straight for the Citadel. The Solar Edge pushed forward, blazing a path through fire. Other human ships followed, forming a spear that cut through the council lines. Above the Citadel of Orvos, the final battle began. Towers of metal and glass glowed with alien energy, firing massive beams into the human fleet. Ships exploded one after another, but humanity pressed on. Then came the moment that changed everything. A squadron of human bombers, flying low and fast, slipped beneath the Citadel's defenses. With old mining charges strapped to their hulls, they dove straight into the fortress's shield generators. The sky lit with fire as the shields collapsed. The Citadel was exposed. Mara seized the chance. All ships fire everything, she roared. Cannons thundered. Missiles screamed. The human fleet unleashed all their fury. The Citadel shook under the storm. Inside the council chamber, alien leaders panicked. They cannot be allowed inside, one shrieked. They already are, another whispered as human marines breached the halls. The fighting inside was brutal. Humans armed with scavenged rifles and blades stormed through alien corridors. The council's guards fought fiercely, but the humans had something greater than weapons. They had rage, they had vengeance, and they would not stop. At the center of the chamber, Elias himself walked forward, guarded by soldiers. The council leaders glared down at him, their alien forms twisted with anger and fear. You dare defy us, one hissed. You are nothing, another spat. Elias raised his voice, calm but sharp. We were nothing because you made us nothing. You stole our history, you stole our future, but you forgot one thing, we are human. And we do not forget, we do not forgive. Today your lies end, the soldiers fired. The council chamber fell silent forever. Outside, the Citadel burned. Human ships circled the fortress as explosions tore through its towers. The council fleet scattered, leaderless, broken, and when the dust settled, one truth was clear. The council was no more. Across the galaxy, humans celebrated. On Earth, fireworks lit the skies. On Mars, miners sang songs of freedom. On Kalor, children who had once lived in fear now shouted with pride. Humanity was no longer chained. Humanity was no longer weak. They had risen. On the bridge of the Solar Edge, Captain Mara Vey stood beside Elias, staring at the ruins of the Citadel. Around them, the fleet cheered in victory, yet Mara's face was solemn. This is only the beginning, she said. We have won our freedom, but freedom must be protected. The galaxy will never be the same again. Elias nodded. Let them come. Humanity has awakened, and now we will never sleep again. The council's lies had ended. The fury of mankind had ignited, and the reckoning had arrived. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity rose, the day the chains were broken, the day the fire of mankind consumed the stars.